Hello everyone, welcome to 3ddesignacademy.com and the 7th Q&A session. In this segment, I will attempt to solve various problems or questions that you guys might have in Alias. If you have a question or an area that's not working out, please feel free to send the model to contact@3ddesignacademy.com. Now, in this particular segment, a viewer asked me about building a Bodyside for the McLaren Artura. I think that's how it's pronounced, but this is the particular car in question. Now, he did try to build it, but I think it's a little bit too segmented, and the resulting highlight is, it's not bad, but it's not great. So I'm going to show you guys how to rebuild it in a little bit more controlled way. So let's get started. Okay, so for the first thing I'm going to do is, well, actually I did have to rebuild the wheel flat because the existing wheel flat was a little bit, well, it wasn't the best. If you look at the CV structure, it's going in and out, so you probably don't want to do that. So this is the wheel flat that I rebuilt. So it's a little bit cleaner, a little bit more controlled. So you want to, well, there are a couple of videos on my YouTube channel. So please refer to them if you have questions about how to build wheel flats. Okay, well, that's that. And I'm going to just try to rebuild the body side over here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to hide these original surfaces, and including this one. Now he did provide me a scan data, so I'm going to try to fit it over here. Now the thing about Bodyside is that it's a very highlight sensitive, so you guys you have to be very careful how to build it, and you probably want to just build it very cleanly using a very limited number of CVs. So here's what I'm going to do. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to build a curve for the area down here. So I'm just going to grab a 2-degree curve. I'm just going to make it as simple as possible. I'm just going to snap it over here, and I'm just going to snap it over here like this. Okay, and I'm just going to pull it out like this, just a degree 2 curve like this. Very simple, and looks like it's got a little bit of gesture over here. So let's just drag the CV like that, and I'm just going to check it over here. Now this is a scan, so I think it might be a little bit rough. It's not exact, so you just want to be a little bit careful on how you build it. Okay, so I would say that's pretty good. And the second thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag the CV, not drag the CV. I'm just going to copy and paste the curve over here like this. And now I'm going to build the section over here. In order to do that, I'm just going, I think the volume is pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a fit curve over here. I'm just going to make it a degree 2, single span, and just copy one of the sections over here like this. I'm just going to delete the construction history there. I'm just going to drag it over here like this. I'm just going to hide it. All right, and comes rail. So I'm just going to do a monorail like this, and I'm just going to see if it fits. Looks like it's a little bit short, so let's go ahead and grab the extend tool like this. I'm just going to make it a little bit taller, and let's compare. Now looks like it's a lot more inboard, so I'm going to check to see what I need to do. So I'm just going to grab the curves. Oh, actually, I'm just going to grab the curves, not the surface, because it's got history in it. I'm just going to drag it out like this until it pokes out a little bit, and let's just do a little bit of comparison. Looks like the upper is quite a bit far away, so I'm just going to just drag it out like that. And here's what I'm going to use. I'm just going to use a cross-section editor right here. I'm just going to pop that out, and I'm going to grab the scan and the surface all together, and I'm going to just click on this in order to compare the sections. Okay, so green is the surface that I have, and brown is the scan. So you just want to do a little bit of comparison between the two and try to make it fit as much as possible. Now, before I proceed though, you'll see that the highlight over here has a little bit of a section. So basically it's outboard here, and it just it basically goes onto itself, merges onto itself over here and here. What that means is if this, from the top view, if this has a little bit of section like this, you just want to make sure that this one over here has a section that's going the other way so that it merges nicely to each side. I'm going to show you guys how to do that, but before I do, let's just try to make the sections work over here. So for this one, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag it out. I don't know if I'm going to go far as just snap it over here, but you just want to get a little bit closer. And as you can see, if you're coming for the section, I think it does get a little bit closer, although I think it probably needs another surface to really get it over there. But I'm not going to focus on that. I'm just going to focus on the part over here. If you can see over here, I think it's going out a little bit more, and I think the angle is a little bit off. So I'm just going to pop this out so that the angle is similar between the two. And I think that's not too bad. I think I'm going to do a little bit more. I'm just going to grab these CVs over here. Just pick CV, and I'm just going to drag it out, drag it inward like this. Make sure that works. I'm just going to do a little bit of tuning here and there in order to get it a little bit closer. And I think that looks pretty good. Now, there are a couple of areas that's a little bit off, but I think it's not too bad. Maybe I'll just do a little bit more like this. Now, this one, the highlight is going to go back out, but I probably need to build another surface for that. All right, so let's just check it out. Okay, so I'm just going to kill the scan, or hide the scan. And as you can see, the highlight looks pretty good. It's nice and straight. Now, depending on the situation, you probably want to, well, I think this one looks like it's following this area. So I think the direction is good. So let me just go back to Alias. So I think that looks pretty good. If you want to control the direction, of course, you can just use this and just drag it down like this, and that'll follow, the highlight will follow the curve like this for a monorail. All right, so I think that looks pretty good. Let's just get the scan back out, and I'm just going to make sure that it is pretty close, which I think it is. And now I'm just going to do this area over here. So again, you can do a fit curve, doesn't really matter. Just something like that, just nice and simple. And I'm going to snap this curve over here. So what I'm trying to portray is this light catcher over here. So let's go ahead and do that. So let me just go back to Alias. This one, I'm just going to extend it, make it a little bit taller. And now I'm going to add a little bit of volume like this. And I'm just going to run our rail again. Okay, after that, I'm just going to turn the sections on, make sure that everything is good. Now, I know that there's a little bit gap over here, but I'm going to leave that as is because I think the section in the middle matches well. The end. Oh, actually, I think I might have accidentally moved that. So let me just move it back up. And you probably, for this one, you probably want to just snap it to the wheel fly like that. And let's just check. Okay, so I think the spacing is pretty good. However, I'm going to make some just fine tuning over here like that. That gets us a little bit closer, maybe a little bit more. Now, when you're doing this, you want to be a little bit careful because this is supposed to have a little bit of puff compared to the body side. So just want to make sure that that's happening, and I'm just going to extend this one over here like this. Angle's not bad, however, I think it can be pushed in a little bit. So I'm just going to grab this and just push it in like that, and that's pretty close there. All right, so now I'm just going to hide it, and let's just check the section over here. It's not bad, but as you can see over here, it's just nice and straight, which is probably not desirable, especially because this has a little bit of, well, if you look at this, there's a little bit of return. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to deviate from the scan just a little bit. So I'm just going to push this out like this. And this one over here, I'm just going to push it just a little bit in like that. And that should give me a little bit of better section. And let's just take a look. I think it's a little bit better than before. I think it's starting to give me a little bit of, so let me just exaggerate this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push it in, and as you can see, it's starting to give me a little bit of frown over here. That might be a little bit too much though. So I'm just going to pull this one just a little bit outboard, and I'm just going to push this one just a little bit inward like this. And let's just check the scan. Now, Scan should be used as a guide, but it should not be the ultimate thing because usually scans can be a little bit off. So what you want to do is you just want to get it as close as possible, but you don't want to make it Bible for this. Because at the end of the day, well, as a digital modeler, you are trying to make a clean surface. You're not trying to match a scan exactly. Okay, so now that's done, you'll see that there is a little bit of return of the surface over here. So I'm going to try to create that. So in order to that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a curve like this. And you usually want to pick a point that's where you think it's starting to do that. I think, I think this is essentially the theoretical. I believe this where the turn is. But I'm not quite sure if this should be divided into like a primary surface. So I'm going to just try to make it just nice and smooth. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, let's see, I think this is the area. So I'm just going to push it just a little bit more back over here, and I'm going to connect that using a freeform blend. So I'm just going to trim over here like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, well, let's delete the curve over here. I'm just going to duplicate, well, let's not duplicate this. I'm just going to do a fit curve. Okay, so I'm just going to do a fit curve on the wheel flat like that, and I'm just going to make it just a little bit taller, and let's add maybe a few more degrees in here to make it a little bit more accurate. So I would say 4. Okay, I think the CV structure looks a little bit crappy, so I'm just going to, yeah, I think degree 5 works. And I'm just going to delete the construction history over here. I'm just going to push it just a little bit inboard like that. And now I'm just going to do a freeform blend with the surface over here and the curve over here like this. Now side 1 is going to be curvature, side 2 is going to be position, and that's going to just make a nice section for this. In order to do a comparison, I'm just going to do it in Z. Now you see that there's a little return. I think that's looking pretty good. However, I'm going to just pull this out just a little bit more so that it's a little bit more accurate. Now, with this one, I'm not going to go all the way. And the reason is, if you look at this surface over here, I think there's a little bit more return, quite a lot of more acceleration as it goes towards the wheel flat over here. So in order to portray that, here's what I'm going to do. Now you'll notice that there is a surface on top as well. So I think this is a good opportunity for me to have this extend, basically intersect with the surface over here, so that this everything over here is going to work out. All right, so let's do this. First of all, I think I'm just going to trim this out. So I think I'm going to, well, first of all, clear this. And I'm going to just isolate the scan over here. I'm just going to fit a curve over here. So I'm just going to create a degree 2 curve like this. Well, it's kind of hard to see, so let's just pull it out. And I'm just going to make it a degree 2. I think that looks pretty good. I think there's a change of direction over here, so I'm just going to snap a curve like that. Let's just center pivot. I'm going to just do a rotate like this. And there's a little fillet over here, so I'm going to do that too. So I'm just going to pull this one other curve out like this, snap it over here, and let's just do a curve fillet. So let's just do, it's going to be chord, it's going to be G2. I'm just going to grab both. Oh, you want to make sure that the little blue dot over here is at the right side, and I'm going to make it a little bit big. 150, I would say probably double. 300. I think it can go even bigger than that. So I would say 500. I think that's a pretty good fit. Maybe a little bit too big. So maybe I'll just set it to 400. And I'm just going to say automatic for trim type, and that's good. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim everything to that. So let me just extend this like that. Just make sure. Okay, so I'm just going to grab these two surfaces over here. I'm just going to use this to project. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to project it over here as well. So, well, yeah, let's do that. So I'm just going to grab this curve over here like that. I'm just going to project. And now let's trim. Okay, so there's a CO, oh no, oh, there's a duplicate COS, so let me just delete that. I'm going to trim over here like this, and I'm going to trim over here like this. Now there is a slight deviation over here, but if you look at the highlight, it's nice and clean. It just dives down as at the end, but well, this one also does. Now if you look at it's very subtle, but you'll notice that it dives down. It's a lot cleaner than before, and I think it looks pretty good. Okay, so another thing that I'm going to do right now is, well, I actually think this actually needs to be pushed in a little bit. So let's do that. Unfortunately, that means I'm going to have to redo that, but I think that's okay. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this CV over here. I think this dive down was a little bit too much, so I'm just going to grab this one. Just going to push it in like that because I do see a little bit of kickback out here. So I'm just going to push this one in. I don't want to do it too much though. I'm just going to grab this one like this, and I'll push this one in a little bit too, like that. I think that's good. Now that is going to deviate from the scan a little bit, but I think this is actually necessary just because of the shape. I think the scan is a little bit inaccurate because there's quite a lot of kick out over here. Okay, let's go back to Alias. I'm just going to hide the scan data, and unfortunately because of that I'm going to have to redo this one over here. So let me just delete that. I'm going to get rid of that, and now I'm just going to do a fit curve again, degree 5. I'm just going to snap it over here like this. Just going to delete the construction history like that, and let's just push it just a little bit inboard like that. Okay, again, I'm just going to do, well, actually, let's untrim this first, and let's go ahead and do a freeform blend. It's going to be curvature there, position on the other side, and I would say that's still a little bit too much, especially down here. So you know what, I think I'm just going to pull this out. So I'm just going to grab these curves over here and I'm just going to pull them out. That's another way to do it. And let's go ahead. Yeah, that's a little bit too much. Now another thing I can do is I can always pull this curve or this side out. So I think I'm just going to, let's see, I'm just going to grab, oh, let's hide this one. Just going to grab these two CVs and I'm just going to pull them out so that I create a nice subtle transition over here. Okay, I think that's a little bit better. I'm going to just pull it out a little bit more. Now at this point I'm not trying to fit the scan as much because while it is a good guide, I think it's a little bit inaccurate. So I'm just going to do that, and let's go ahead. I think that's a little bit better. Although I think this dive down is a little bit too much. So let me just pull this in a little bit. Yeah, I think just pushing it in like that might be a better idea. Okay, so let's just push it in. I think that's subtle enough. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. All right, so the second thing I'm going to do is you'll notice that there's a fender over here and it's all connected all the way through. Now, because I did modify the fender over here, I am going to redo this one. So I'm just going to align it over here like this. I'm going to say partial. Position influence should be set to max. Blending will be on like this. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set a rail over here. So I'm going to grab this edge over here. I'm just going to grab this edge over here like that. And let's just go ahead and use curve segments, and I'm going to snap it like this. Now, what that does is it creates a transitional surface for this one over here. And all you have to just put a fillet between the two. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, I'm not going to do all of this. I'm just going to do it locally over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab all these, project over here. I'm going to trim here, and I'm going to also trim over here like that. Now, because the intersection is pretty clean, I can just put a surface fillet between the two. So let's go ahead and put something in there. 50, looks like it doesn't match over here. So let's make sure that does. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, let's hide this one. And I'm just going to project this edge over here. Now, I'm not quite sure if this is going to, I wonder if it's a little bit too much. This section over here, well, maybe that might be okay. That might be not. Now, if this is too much, you probably want to push this inboard a little bit more. So let's find out. Okay, so I'm just going to do a fillet between the two, and let's make it a little bit larger, 100. And let's take a look. I think the flick is actually not that bad, to be honest. So I would say, I think I'm just going to leave it. Although I think that really depends on the picture. Maybe that's a little bit too much. Okay, you know what? Okay, so this is the last change I'm going to make. Okay, so I'm just going to delete this one. And I'm just going to push this in quite a lot more inboard. So let me just, for this one, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to duplicate this edge. I'm going to push it in like that. And I'm going to just align this one over here like that. And that's going to be a little bit better. So a little bit blending on it, maybe one like this. And unfortunately, this one has to be redone. So let's do a fit curve again, degree 5. I'm going to snap it over here. And let's just push it in a little bit more. Okay, so I'm just going to grab the curve like this. I'm going to, let me just push it in a little bit more. I think that should be a little bit better. Okay, and let's go ahead and realign this one. So let's grab a line. It's going to position, or you can just do the freeform blend again. It doesn't really matter. This one, on the other hand, the blending will be turned off. Okay, so that's nice and subtle over here. It's not, well, I'm just basing off of this one. So that's not too bad. And let's go ahead and push it a little bit more outboard like this. And the rest of it will be done by this fillet over here. So I'm just going to, well, not fillet. Let's, this fender piece over here like this. I'm just going to make it fit using curve segments. Okay, so I think that's a little bit better. A little bit of flick in the end. I don't think that's too bad. All right. So now what I'm going to do is, well, it looks like the middle section is a little bit, oh, I guess that's not too bad. Okay, so I'm just going to do a little bit of rotation so that the progression is a little bit softer. And for this one, I think I can probably just puff it out in the middle because right now it feels a little bit hollow. So what I can do is I can just do a fit curve over here. If it'll let me. And I'm just going to make it a degree 2, nice and simple. Even if there's a little bit deviation, because its surface is so big, I think it should be okay. Okay, so I'm just going to puff this out and I'm just going to align this one like this. And I'm just going to do a blending over here, 1 and 2. And that's going to puff out the middle a little bit, make it nice and subtle. And let's do this again. All right, so I'm just going to grab this one and I'm just going to, let's see. Let's grab this surface. I'm going to grab this one. Say hide unselected. Just going to project it over here. I'm going to trim. Oh, did I? Oh, I did it on the wrong edge. Okay, I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to project it here and I'm going to trim it like this. And actually, I should do the same thing on the top. I'm going to just trim it. Okay, so that looks good. Actually, I'm going to do this. I should have trimmed it to this side. And I'm going to trim it using the trimmed edge over here. And that looks good. Okay, so now let's go ahead and put a fillet here. 100. Yeah, that looks pretty clean. Although the span in the middle, it's not great. But, well, maybe a little bit more. I'll just try to make it as big as possible. 120 for a nice soft transition. 130. Let's go. Let's see if I can do 140. Okay, so I think 140 is the limit. However, I am going to make sure that it's set to edge align. Same thing at the bottom. Now there is a span in the middle, so you can try to fix that. So I'm just going to see if I can reduce it. Yep, that works. That's not curvature. Well, let's see. Okay, so for this one, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do a cleanup like this. So I'm going to say fit curve over here. I'm going to say fit curve over here. Just going to make sure that the CV structure is between pretty close. And let's go ahead and duplicate this edge and duplicate this edge. The original surface, I'm going to just get rid of it. I'm going to untrim here, untrim here. I'm just going to redo it like this using the fit curve. And now I'm just going to rebuild it using square. So it's going to be COS over here. What's going on? Oh, okay. COS over here, curve over here, COS over here, and curve over here like this. Okay. Of course, that looks like it has spans, but that's okay. I'm going to say make it 5 and 5. Let's see if I can make it fit. All right. So I'm just going to trim this side, trim this side. These curves can be gone, and I'm just going to align it. Curvature here, position influence. Curvature here, position influence set to 0, still works. I still get curvature, so that's even better. Okay, so now that's done, I'm just going to delete the construction history, and let's look at the intersection over here. So that's pretty nice and smooth, a nice highlight, a little bit flick over here, but I think that's okay. All right, if you want to adjust this, you'll probably have to make it a negative section over here. But since it's already positive here, I think I'm just going to let that be. Yeah, I think I'm just going to leave it for now. Okay, so now what I need to do is I just need to create a fillet for this section over here. Now, but because it is also going to the wheel flat over here, I'm going to adjust that. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm just going to make, I'm going to extend this piece a little bit more. And I'm going to project this edge and this edge over here. And I'm just going to separate those. So I'm just going to extend like this. So this is going to be one piece, and this is going to be another. And this outside piece can be deleted. All right, and now all you have to do is just fillet between the two. So surface fillet, it's going to be chord, it's going to be G2, and for this one, it's going to be a little smaller. So let's try maybe, well, I'm going to start with 50 and see how it does. So I'm just going to grab these. I'm going to do a fillet between the two. Auto, it should be set to edge align. So let's see. And I'm going to say edge align over here as well. And let's take a look at the highlight. Okay, so the highlight looks pretty good. However, I think it could be a little bit bigger. So let's go ahead and make it a little bit bigger. Maybe 100. Oh, I think 100 might be a little bit too big. So let's try 90. Okay, 90 works over here at least. It doesn't over here. So, well, just to keep it simple, I'm just going to make it 85, whatever makes it fit. And I think that looks pretty good. So you get a nice highlight section over here. I think the size is actually pretty good. So I think it's following that nicely. And now I'm just going to finish this off. Okay, so for this one, it's much easier to just run the surface fillet over here and just build this by hand instead of building this one and manually building this one. So I'm just going to intersect like this, grab a curve like that. I'm going to snap it over here, and I'm going to snap over here. Let's just center pivot and extend because it's a little bit short. And I'm going to project here. I'm going to project here. Okay, delete the curves. I'm going to trim or trim. I'm going to say keep. I'm going to say keep over here. I'm just going to delete the construction history though. And now you can put a freeform blend curve over here. Or not freeform blend, blend curve over here. Okay, or what I like to do sometimes is just do a bi-rail. So I'm just going to say 1 and 2 over here like this. Now you don't really need to set it to curvature, but I don't like the number of CVs. So let's just make it 5 degree. Oh, actually this one can be a little bit less. This one on, however, should be 5 like this. I'm going to align it over here. It's going to be edge you have to make an edge, otherwise it's not aligned. And you can make it edge over here, and you got a nice body side over here. So so it's a lot cleaner than before. It's nice and straight. I think this highlight looks nice. The only flaw is I think this one should have had a little negative shape. If you have a negative shape, that's going to, instead of giving you an S shape highlight like this, it'll actually flow nicely over here. But the problem is that this has a positive shape. So I think it requires a little balancing act. Actually, I do see a little negative here, so maybe that's what should have been done. Anyways, all right, so that is how to make a body side for the McLaren Artura. Thank you guys for watching, and see you next time.